The information provided on this podcast is intended to be educational and informational only and is not considered to be formal legal advice. The listener should not take or refrain from taking action based on its content. Any listener in need of legal opinion upon which to rely in decision-making should consider formally engaging an attorney to review relevant facts in detail and examine the pertinent law as it applies to those facts.
So, you decided you want more out of your life. More than the 9 to 5. More than paycheck to paycheck. More than lifelong debt. But that leaves questions. Where do I go from here? What can I do without any money, connections, or experience? My goal is to not only provide you with answers to those questions, but also to motivate people in an authentic way, mentor people who don't have mentors, give back, and hear some inspiring stories along the way. If you're not going to show people what's possible, who is? My name is Aaron Iler, and this is Ground Zero.
So, welcome to my first ever Dream Chasers podcast. So, Raquel, I have to fill you in because things have changed on our end too. So the last time that we talked, this was supposed to be Dream Chasers Always and Forever. And I was getting a little mixed between what I was really trying to achieve. It was a little confusing for the audience. So after a little bit of reevaluation, Aaron and I are now teaming up and I am co-hosting Dream Chasers Ground Zero. So this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero, but more like the female side of things.
Ooh, and I like that I'm the first guest on this one too. I love being the first because you never forget you're first.
Right? I was watching and I was I think that is so sweet that Raquel was first for Aaron and she's first for me too. This is perfect. This is the official announcement that we're doing this together. So I'm so excited that you get to be a part of this with both of us.
Well, I'm very honored and humbled, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know last time whenever you were doing this with Aaron, it was very much the professional side of things, your ground zero, where you started and what all of that looks like. But I like to go deeper and I like those messy moments, those multiple ground zeros that really got you to where you are. The things that we just as girls don't ever talk about, the crying, this was so awful, but this made me who I am today because no one asked and people think that people don't care, but those are the most important things. And for me, I have been on this ride where I'm do I tell my story? Is anyone going to care? Are they going to get anything out of it? And after talking to you, I feel you're my soul sister and I only talked to you one other time. And I'm I can't believe that her story could impact me in this way that I can relate so much. So that's where we're really going with this. So anywhere that you would want to dive in, I know we talked a lot about allowing yourself to do what you want. Let's talk about that. The first point where you were I'm not going to be this happy Raquel in front of everyone. I'm just going to allow myself to go through these hard things and really do what I want.
Well, I love that, sharing my story inspired you. And that's the whole reason why we should share our stories and be so open because you don't realize how many other women especially have experienced what you have and they feel they're alone. And that's the crazy part of it all is that we have 7.5 billion people in this world, but yet we always feel we're the only ones.
Right?
I'm how? Believe me, there's somebody else that has experienced or felt the way you have. And so the more we openly talk about that, the better. And I honestly was someone that was such a perfectionist growing up. I had to be this perfect little girl. And so for me, I was never going to be sharing those messy moments. Are you kidding me? Because that meant that I wasn't perfect. And I don't know where this whole idea that perfection existed came from, but I think that we perpetuate that still, where we all know that that doesn't exist, but yet we put so much pressure on ourselves, on others. We judge others. And that's why, for me, I'm in a place where I'm going to be 46 this year. And it took a really long time for me because I've been talking to a lot of youth and it's amazing how many of our youth are already way in advance in their thinking than I was at that age. Yeah. But then I think about it and I think, okay, you know what? But this is my journey. I think that's another thing too, is that we're so quick to compare ourselves to others and think, oh, I should be at that level at that age, or I should have already accomplished that. And it's no. Remember, this is your life. Everybody is unique in their own way and they are supposed to go through the process the way they're supposed to go through it. And that's that's like the beauty of it. I think we need to celebrate that everybody's unique. Like,
Yes.
I love hearing people's journeys and their stories. Like for me, that to me is what inspires me when I hear the rock bottoms, the ground zeros, those messy moments, because that's where most people can relate. Because the majority of the population feels that way, but we tend to see the people on social media, that the ones that are willing to share their story. A lot of them, unfortunately, kind of put this persona or put this stuff out there that it's really, okay, that can't be true. Or like, you can't have had all that success, overnight, or you can't have gotten here without struggling. I think it's like, I like to equate everything with the Wizard of Oz, with the Oz behind the curtain, where it's like, I love when people open that curtain and be like, the real Oz, not what you thought it was. And I feel like I managed to do that myself in a way of like, yes, I'm happy all the time. Yes, I'm smiling, I'm laughing, and I make people laugh. But, if you take the curtain away, like there's a lot of layers there. And I think that everybody has something behind the curtain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like expecting.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes you so special, because when we first started talking, you weren't afraid to tell me anything, and I was like, I love that, like, she's just coming full out, and that makes me feel like I can relate to you too. So like, that's where this real relationship for me was like soul sister. Like, she's just going all in with me, and I'm able to get so much from that. And it really changed my perspective. That's like, man, if I'm brave enough to share these things for others too, imagine the impact that I could have. Where I really thought, like, who's going to care what I have to say? Like, no one wants to hear this, but like, they do. So like, that's why I'm here. We're doing it.
You do. And like, it's so beautiful to feel like you're helping others, like that empowerment of like, I'm going to own my story because I'm helping someone else. And if you truly come from a good heart and from the right place, you really do want to help others. It's those people that are givers. It's like, well, why don't you give that gift to others by sharing who you really are and being real about it. And that's something that it did take me a long time. It took me decades to realize it. Once again, it's okay. At least I realized it. And now I'm doing something with it.
Yeah.
It has a purpose.
So getting to Raq The Boat, like that, I know we had talked about like, that was after like having kids and being home for a while, and then deciding like, I'm going to build a business. It doesn't matter how old I am, what my background is, like, I can do this and it doesn't matter. And you had to go through a lot of those moments kind of like alone, where things weren't perfect with family, things weren't perfect with friends, but you didn't let that deter you, where you're like, okay, I can't do this because I don't have support. Like going all in on your dream as a woman and having that mindset, even without the most perfect support system, that specific ground zero, like I want to hear all about that moment when you were like, I'm doing this. It does not matter what anyone else thinks.
You know what? I'm kind of experiencing those moments because I've never thought of myself as, an entrepreneur or someone that, is a go-getter. The narrative in my head is completely different than what other people say about me or think about me. So for me, I still struggle with that a little bit, but just recently, I think I finally have realized like, I'm all in at this point. Like life is short, and if I don't do it, then someone else might do it. Like, because that's the thing is I have all these ideas and I know what I want to do. And I'm like, well, why can't I be the one that's breaking ground or doing something that has never been done before? Or for whatever reason, I always felt like, oh, that's somebody else. So it's just working on that confidence, and realizing like, I deserve it too. I deserve the happiness and the success. It doesn't mean that I'm a selfish human being or I'm cocky or any of that. It just means that like, I have dreams and I'm going to make them a reality. And so they've been a lot of moments. And I think one of the important things, and my mom does remind me of it, is that every now and then she'll be like, Raquel, you should be really proud of yourself. Like, you've got married young, you had kids at a young age, you got divorced, started from ground zero there because I was a stay-at-home mom and suddenly I needed to make money. So then was doing, the hostess job at a restaurant, yoga teacher, worked for a guy as a project manager in his home. Like I was doing all these like random jobs at the same time just to make enough money to pay my rent. I was very blessed that my parents helped me a little bit financially. So, and then my ex was giving me some financial support at the time, but I really was just kind of like, all right, let's just do this. And I just kept going and I didn't really think about it. And so it's those moments where my mom reminds me, and I think it's important for us women to be able to like sit in that moment and be like, yeah, girl, like you are doing this. Like you are a strong person. You are smart. You are all of these things. And I think we're so quick to like try to get to point B or point Z that we forget that like, hey, stop and look around and look at what you've done and appreciate that. And so that's kind of where I'm at too, is really realizing like, holy crap, like I've kind of been through a lot and I'm okay.
Yeah, that was like, I remember we talked about before where I was just kind of like, and then this happened and this happened and this happened. And you were like, April, you should be proud of all of this. Like you have gone through this much. And I'm like, no, it's not an excuse. It doesn't matter. I have to be here. I have to be here and keep going and keep going. And it's like, stop, allow yourself to just like take a break and take a breath and just like be who you're going to be. Like you don't have to outdo yourself all the time because you will get there. I remember having a very similar conversation with a girlfriend last summer because I was getting ready to graduate. And I was like, a year from now when I graduate, what am I going to do? I have to have it all figured out. Like, how do I build a business and be a mom and do all these things? And she was like, April, you will always work as hard as you always have. Like you are who you are. And that's not going to change because of one little ground zero or whatever you want to call it. Like, you will be okay. And taking in that road along the way is so important too. And we just never do that. And maybe like we feel like we're not allowed because that was a bad time and it didn't play a role. But like those things really do play such a bigger role because look at you, look where you are, all of those things got you to where you are. And I mean, I know we've only talked 2 times, but like, I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
And I mean, and just the last time we spoke, I think was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago. So already so much has happened in those 2 weeks. I mean, I am now a founder of a youth social network called Raq. Yes. So I just partnered up with my friend Jason, who's created XXO Connect, and that's a private platform. And he launched it last year, and it's for adults, but it's creating community and bringing back human connection because he felt that, everything's about vanity metrics. And he's like, we need to get back to the human side. So this is a safe space because it is members only. It's only $15 a month, which is really nothing. And you get to go on this platform and they have like master classes. So you have all these people come in, you have all these, you have like sex therapists, for instance, or relationship therapists or coaches. And so because he wants to talk about like really real tough conversations that a lot of us aren't comfortable having, but he wanted to create the safe space to be able to have it on that platform. Yes, it's fantastic. So I'm a member and I've gotten on some of these calls and the conversations that we have, I love having them with people that I don't really know very well that are in other parts of the country, but we feel safe to be able to open up. And then you learn so much. And so he's been wanting to do that and have a kids network. So we've partnered up and I am creating the kids network, RAQVISION. So it's now a youth social network, 18 and under. And so any adult that's a member of the XXO Connect platform, they can have their kid, because obviously parental consent. But what's so cool about this, April, is that I want to create like a whole world in the sense that we'll have like a book club, we'll have conversations where we talk about like the LGBTQ plus community, or we talk about diversity, we talk about dating, and have them facilitated by some really cool human beings. Like already I have Justin Guarini on board, from American Idol, Diet Dr. Pepper. He's he's going to have like a confidence series to talk to these kids about confidence. I've got my friend Michael Ray, who's going to do It's Cool to Be Kind club. So we do random acts of kindness. I want to have an art club. I want to have a book club. I mean, all these things, but I want a safe space for our youth to go, to feel empowered, to feel inspired, all of those things. So that's why I was saying I want you to be a part of it, because I really feel it's important to also have the younger generations, like in the 20s, to also be speaking to that age group, so that they feel like, okay, I'm not too far away from this person, and they're really inspiring me, and they're showing me that I have the ability to have a vision as well. So that we're launching June 1st. I mean, and that's just happened in the last, so that's the whole point, April, is that you just never know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
You really don't. Like, and I'm in a place where I like that I don't know what's around the corner. Like, I thrive on the unknown now, where before I felt like I had to have a plan and I had to know what my future looked like. Now I just get excited, not knowing like that tomorrow could be a totally different day and something really cool can happen. Like, that to me excites me now, where before it scared the shit out of me.
I just want to jump out of my seat because I'm so excited. I love that mindset. I feel like that's what I've been begging for. And at the same time, jumping back a little bit to what you had said, I feel like social media is almost an excuse now not to have a conversation. It's just an update. It's this, it's that. People aren't calling to ask how you are because they're just seeing the quick little highlights on social media. But there's so much more that we need to be talking about. And I love that you're creating this, because I'm like, where do I get this from? And here you are doing it. And I get to be a part of it. So I'm like, want to jump out of
after this, we're going to talk details so that you can be a part of my launch week, because I already have people scheduled that week to have a conversation. And that way the kids can pick and choose, like, ooh, I want that. Like, that conversation sounds like something I really want to get involved with. But like, how great is it for these kids also to feel like they have access to people that might not feel like they have access to, in a way that's just very personal. And I'm just so excited about it. I really am. Like, I pinch myself every day. And, but hey, you know what? Like I was saying before, I got to at least own it and be proud of myself and be like, this is great. And it's one of those things where I think Jason and I have created it so quickly, because we have that mindset of like, you know what, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If we fail at that moment, it's okay. We'll just keep going and keep going. So we just have we just dove in like full force, because what's the worst that can happen? It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
We try something else. And that's another thing too, where before my mindset was like, if this doesn't work, what are people going to think of me? Oh my gosh, they're going to I'm not going to be as viewed as such a successful person because I failed. I'm like, no, if anything, you're going to be viewed more as a success because of all those failures.
Yeah, that's like the overarching message though, isn't it? Like, whether you are in that professional realm or even just trying to get to a place in your life where you're happy with yourself, because that's a battle in itself too. Like, you can go through those things and it's not going to be perfect. But if you don't do anything, then you're not going to get anywhere. So like, you have to I don't want to say take risks. I mean, essentially it is risks, but just, put yourself in that new lane and keep moving forward and doing those things that you have to do, because it's not going to be perfect every single time. But that's where you learn what's going to work and what's not. And then being able to have a place to have those conversations where it's not just, I'm going to Google this and read through it and try and figure it out. Maybe I'll post about it in a Facebook group and someone will hopefully give me something out of like the 6 or 7 comments. Like, this is what we need. And I'm so happy that you're like focusing on this for the kids. Like, that's incredible. Like, why didn't I think of that?
I mean, and last night I had an open call for teenagers just to talk about mental health, because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So Niambi, who's another young lady, 23 years old, she herself has gone through bullying, has suicidal attempts, and just has been in a really dark place, and she's overcome it. And now she's a coach for 20-somethings. So she and I co-moderate. I don't even want to say co-moderate. We just went ahead and did a Zoom call. We had several teenagers on there, and they were so open, and I didn't record it. I didn't post about it. Like, I wanted them to really feel like it was a safe space, and they loved it so much. They're like, can we continue these calls? I said, absolutely. Cause it was going to be like a one-time thing. But then I realized, you know what? in order to really get deeper and deeper, you got to continue to like be able to trust the people that you're talking to, and they want to bring on friends. And this is exactly what I wanted to create over on RAQVISION, are those type of conversations. And so last night it just kind of solidified, like, this is going to be good. Like, this is what you want. And I was just so happy in that moment. And that's when I realized too, that everything that I've gone through, my depression, my suicide attempt, everything, like it all culminated into like that one call last night where I just sat there and I was like, this is it, Raquel. Like, everything that you've gone through is for a moment like this, where you're helping other young women, because there was women on the girls on the call, like helping them feel secure enough to share their story and to be okay with it. It was an overwhelming feeling, but it just all made sense to me. And finally, now my life makes sense. After 45 years, now I've figured out.
But while you're saying this, I'm literally thinking the same thing. It's like every single thing you went through where you thought, I can't do this. This is it. This doesn't make sense. Is this all there is? I've got nothing else. And you never think about that next high. Like, you don't even think you're allowed. Like, I'm never going to get there. I couldn't possibly. But like, look at what you did. Like, I just want to squeeze you. This is the kind of stuff that we need to talk about, you know, and this was only in the last 2 weeks. Like, it's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be overnight. And you have so many other amazing projects that you're working on too, but putting yourself out there and just starting and doing that and finding your network and finding your people and all of that, no matter where you are, whether it's a business or just for yourself. Like, oh, I'm so
happy. I mean, essentially following your heart, April. I think at the end of the day, like, it's really just following my heart, my intuition, and doing what feels right for me. And that's something that I remind myself every day, because it can get chaotic, right? Like, there is still a lot of pressure of having this work and posting on social media and getting the right people and all those things. But then I sit and I go back to, like, Raquel, remember why you're doing this. You're doing this to help empower kids. So if you can affect one kid in the positive way, then we're good. Like, it's getting yourself back to that, like, ground zero and recheck, because it can get overwhelming, and then you can start putting those pressures on yourself too. And that's something that I have to just every day I think about that. I really do. Like, I sit and have that moment and be like, why are you doing this, Raquel? This is for the kids. Remember, this is not about you. This is about the kids. Like, this is out of my hands at this point. Like, so yeah, it's definitely a reminder, but I think because I have followed my heart at this point, where before I was just following my brain, because that's what people tell you to follow, is your brain, not your heart.
Right.
And I think more and more people are realizing that you got to follow your heart, because if not, like, why are you doing anything? If you're not loving it and you're not doing it because it makes you happy, or it's something that's going to be a good thing in this world, like, I don't know. I'm just like just sitting here, like, trying to now figure out what the heck I'm gonna say, because I'm like so like in the moment of like, oh my gosh, this is what happens. We're having a real moment right here where I myself am kind of like, oh my goodness, like, holy shit.
I love it though, because I can tell that, like, this is what makes your heart tick. And you're still going to have those days where you're like, is that enough? Or do I need to be doing more? Or it's not perfect. Or, you know, that's so normal. And I don't think that makes you, I don't even know what the word is, but like any less like successful or progressive with what you're trying to do. You know, just allow yourself to keep doing what you're doing and feel good about it and go through those moments. That is something that we talked about too, like nurturing yourself, where you have those off days, like where you're just going to sit and you're going to binge Netflix and not worry about anything else, but like taking that time to like be blank for a few minutes is so important.
Yes. That's why I didn't roll out of bed till 10:30. I had people like calling me, posting about me on LinkedIn. And I was like, sorry, like busy asleep. So I allowed myself, instead of like being hard on myself, being like, oh, you should have been up at 8 a.m. and what it should have been, could have, would have, should have, whatever, all those things, right? Like, no, I have to also understand that, like, for me, sleep is really important. I love to dream. I'm a big dreamer. like super vivid dreams. So for me, sometimes like I want to be in those dreams as opposed to being in my reality. And that's the thing too, is I wanted to stay like, even me sitting here talking to you, it's funny because, you know, we're on a podcast. It's like I myself want to be that perfect guest, right? Like the guest that brings all the golden nuggets, that says the right things. But that's something too that I sit here and stumble over myself. Like I'm not the best guest where I say all the time or so. And those are things too that we also have to like be okay with. That me sitting here talking to you, I don't need to come across a certain way because we're being recorded. Like I have, and that I think that's something too that a lot of us like are so hard on ourselves. Like I wouldn't make a good guest, or I wouldn't make a good host, or what do I have to offer, or what do I have to say? It's like, you know what, just be you. And if you fumble in that moment and you stutter and you do any of those, like, who cares? That's you just being a human being. And we're all human. And I think it's like even covering up those moments, like we shouldn't, because like I even was on a podcast recently, and the person didn't want to post it because they felt that they didn't look like the way that they wanted to look. And I was like, really? I mean, come on, like just post it. I know it might not be what your brand is about or your image, but like that's how you felt in that moment. They felt they like looked a little bit goofy, or they were kind of like gushing over me in a way where I guess maybe they didn't think that they should be gushing. I don't know. But that's what it just was a reminder to me too of like, wow, see, someone like doesn't feel that comfortable enough sharing like what they truly felt in that moment. Like, come on.
Like,
we'll see if the podcast ever comes out, because so far other ones have been released and I did this like 3 weeks ago. So I don't know.
I'm learning that. I mean, I've had those thoughts. I was like, what if I stumble and I'm like, what if I just don't post this? You know what I mean? Like, is this going to be good or not? But like, I didn't even have notes ready. I was like, no, this is what I wanted to do for a long time. I want to have these conversations. It's not going to be perfect. I want to inspire other people to do it too. And it's not going to be perfect. So there's no notes. Like there's nothing. This is just very like you and me conversation, and whatever it is, it's going out. Like it is what it is.
Podcast I like to be on where it's off the cuff. I mean, that's why with my Raq The Boat show, you know, I get asked all the time from these, like the kids will ask their parents like, oh, what are the questions she going to ask me? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to hit the record button and start talking to them, and wherever the conversation goes, it goes. Like, I think that's another thing too, is that we want to be we want to control the conversation because we want to feel like we are going to have those light bulb moments for everyone to share. You know, I might not have given any light bulb moments or any golden nuggets. It's okay. I was just being me in this moment, and that's the best that I can do, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And this is my first time ever hitting record, so like it is what it is.
You're really good, April. Like you're natural too. Like there's definitely people that they just have a knack for being able to have their guests just kind of open up in a certain way, and you have that for sure.
Thank you.
So I know that you'll be good. You and Aaron, like I like how you're kind of doing like the female version.
Thank you. He does too. He's so excited. I think for me, like I've always wanted to have a talk show. And I think that's something that I felt in my mind, like, oh, I can never get there because I don't live in LA and I don't live out there. So like that can't happen. But like, why not? Just like what you're doing, you know, like, why can't I? Like,
why can't you be that first person doing it? Like, once again, it's like, why do we feel like we can't be the groundbreaker, the change maker, the innovator? We all have it in us. It's just having that confidence and that mindset to know that you can have that. But that's a whole nother conversation, right? Like mindset.
Yeah. So, I mean, even just for me, you know, getting into this industry and this world and networking and putting myself out there, it's allowed me to meet some really incredible women, and I mean, like men too, not that I just really haven't talked to any guys yet. I'm sure there's awesome guys out there with awesome stories. I'll get there. But I just really want to thank you for sharing with me and for sharing with everyone listening or watching, whichever it is. And I want to know where our listeners and viewers can find you, and also this new project launching on June 1st. We'll pop it up on the screen too.
Okay, so I'm on Instagram, Raquel Borras, LinkedIn, Raquel Borras. I deleted my Facebook account a couple months ago. Hallelujah. And yeah, I'm so happy. And then you can go ahead and find RAQVISION. I think we bought like a bunch of the domains. So you can go to xxoconnect.com, because that's essentially where, if you have a child that you want them on the platform, it's free under the $15 membership, but you just have to sign through xxo.com. And no, xxoconnect.com, but also you can go to RAQVISION.tv, RAQVISION.com. I mean, just Google RAQVISION and I think like all of them will pop up. But if you just go to that website, you'll be able to sign up your kids already, and the launch is June 1st. So those are essentially the best places to find me.
Now, when you say RAQVISION, is that RAQ for your name, or is it literally Raq, like RAQVISION?
Yeah, so I'm branding Raq in the sense that like Raq The Boat, RAQ, RAQVISION, RAQ. We're Raq the Realness, so that's kind of like the tagline for RAQVISION. So yeah, I love it. Just totally worked out branding wise.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And I think all too often, like, everyone's stories get overlooked, or they feel like, oh, no one's going to talk to me or be able to find because I'm not in that industry. So I want to put it out there too, that if you have a story that you need to tell, or you want to tell, that I went through this and this got me to where I am, I want to hear the story. I want to help share the story and be a part of it. So email me. I'll make sure that my email's on here. It's aprilmunson@protonmail.com. Although that will be changing. Adam told me he's giving me a promotion soon, so that email will be like under his umbrella eventually. But yeah, I'm so excited to meet you and hear your story. And Raquel, thank you so much for being here. And I don't have a fancy closing yet, so.
Hear everybody else's story. Like I think once again, like you'd be surprised how many people want to hear other people's stories.
So I'm here for it. Like I said, I don't have a fancy ending or like a fancy closing line or whatever. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.